Hi, I'm Representative Kim Fawcett, and you're watching an episode of Our Town. About 8 years ago, when I got more involved in the Fairfield community, I started to meet really extraordinary people. Not just our elected officials, but those people behind the scenes that work for our town government or run our nonprofits. The idea behind Our Town is to interview those people and share them with you, so you get a glimpse at the work they're doing to bring our community together and really make Fairfield an extraordinary place. Today I'm really lucky and very thrilled to have Carla Miklos. Carla, many of you may know, is the Executive Director of Operation Hope, and Operation Hope is such an extraordinary part of our town, and so thank you for joining me today, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on over there at Operation Hope. But first I wanted to start off and just sort of let people get to know you a little bit, because you do such amazing work for our town, and you came to Operation Hope about 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
Yeah.
I just had my 5th anniversary.
Yeah, because I remember you came shortly after I was elected for the first time, so there was a memorable transition there.
Yes.
And so where did you come from, and talk a little bit about your education and how you ended up working in the nonprofit world.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. So let me see. I started out my business career after finishing school. I went to the University of Bridgeport, and I worked in the banking field. And I had been working actually during my college time. I was a teller at the Brick Walk. It used to be Mechanics and Farmers Savings Bank.
Wow.
And I worked there during my school years.
Okay.
And then I got married and moved away for a while. And I continued to work in banking and moved up through a series of more challenging positions in banking, where I ended up working in default management, which is actually kind of a current topic right now. And I worked for a large company owned by the Prudential that purchased and managed portfolios of defaulted loans.
Wow, and this is before the mortgage
this crisis, but
yeah.
it's not the first crisis.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So while I was doing that work, a lot of the assets were real estate assets, and I started to learn an awful lot about foreclosure and eviction, and I started to think, I wonder if there's a way where I can take what I know about foreclosure and eviction and teach people how to hold on to their homes instead of losing their homes. So I approached a large nonprofit in Bridgeport about a program that they had that was a homeless prevention loan program. And it wasn't really all it could be. So I kind of wrote them a letter and said, I'm interested in making this transition from the corporate world into the nonprofit world. I think I could help you here. And they weren't all that interested because I wasn't a clinical social worker, and it took a while to sort of convince them, but I took a big cut in pay and I went to work for them and ended up managing that program and creating a series of programs that all had to do with economic empowerment for people of very limited means. And then as time worked out, eventually I found my way to Operation Hope.
So that transition, what was sort of, where is that transition based? You just wanted to get out of?
I think for me, I was always looking for ways to kind of, put my philosophy and my faith in action. And I always felt like there was a way where I could help. So I was helping through usual channels. I was volunteering, or in my spare time I was doing things, but I was also raising a child and, had all the complications of normal everyday life. And so I found that those little bits weren't really meaningful enough for me. I was ready to make a big transition. And so that opportunity opened a door for me that I've always been happy I went through.
Yeah, and it's just extraordinary when I meet people who are willing to just, into a professional career and just take a step in a new direction and do something totally new. It's very impressive, and also really neat how you linked it to your previous career.
Yeah, I think I was really lucky. Sometimes I wonder what I was thinking, but most days I'm really happy that I did it.
Most days, yes. So you ended up at Operation Hope, and a lot of people in town are familiar with Operation Hope, but let's talk a little bit about what is Operation Hope, because some people don't know that we have a homeless shelter and so many services right here in downtown Fairfield.
Right, it's true. I think a lot of people think they know something about Operation Hope, but not everyone really knows the full scale of what we do. So we were actually started about 26 years ago.
Yeah.
And it started kind of as a response to some visible homelessness that some of our interfaith clergy noticed, people on the street and in park benches and that kind of thing. And then it grew to what it is today, which is we have 2 locations. We have 50 Nichols Street, which is our homeless shelter. We have 18 beds for men, 6 for women, and 3 family units. And we have the community kitchen there, and that's where we serve lunch and dinner every day to anyone who's hungry in the community. What's so interesting about the community kitchen is all that food is provided by people in the community. It's purchased, prepared, brought fully cooked to the shelter every day for us to serve lunch and dinner. We serve about 50 people a day, and it's served by another set of volunteers from the community. So that community engagement piece is just incredible, and it's really a testament to what this community is all about, that 25 years later we still have volunteers on hold to take like an extra day.
I have been part of one of the teams, I think, at Stratfield School. I know the different school PTAs they set up to bring food, and I have done it, not recently, but it must be an extraordinary amount of organizing to organize who's the food coming in from, and then who is coming to serve the food.
It's a very complex process. It's a moving target kind of calendar, and every day people have to eat, and we've got to fit people into the slots, make sure the food is coming. And I will tell you though, I could count on one hand how many times a year food doesn't show up. So it's pretty remarkable. People take that commitment very seriously, and I think in some ways, and we'll probably talk about this more, but I think we're here as much to give the community a venue for service as we are here to serve the people that are in our programs.
That's really interesting. And my husband is involved in nonprofit work, and I see the same through his, and I understand what you mean. It's just being the place where people can put their time and their energy.
Right, 'cause I think people want to help, right? But they need to know how to help.
Yeah.
And so I think we're lucky. That's one of the ways that we can help. And then, not too long after that got started, we opened our food pantry. Today the food pantry is at 636 Old Post, right across the street from the Town Hall Green, next door to First Church.
Oh, okay.
It's the old Fairfield Historic Society.
Yes, it is. Yes. Okay.
So we have the pantry downstairs, and then on the first floor we have our clinical team, our administrative offices over there. And then we currently own or operate 46 units of affordable housing that's combined with clinical and case management support. So over the years, we've just quietly been realizing that there's multiple solutions to the problems that people present in this town, and that if we really think about how to serve them, we need to get them in a stable situation, stable with food, stable with housing, stable with counseling. And our belief is kind of that everyone deserves a supportive relationship, hope for the future, and a place to call home.
That's really neat. And you mentioned, I'm going to back up just a second because something you said caught my ear, which was the pantry.
Right.
And so I'm wondering how, I don't know if people know that we have a pantry, and again, it's on Post Road next to First Church, but who can come in? And how does that work? Can anybody in Fairfield that's feeling the pinch come in, and how do they access the pantry?
Well, certainly anyone who's in need of food should contact us for sure. But the way the pantry tends to operate is people need a referral. So either they self-refer and we create a referral, or they're referred from the town social services or senior center or some service provider in the community. But no one who approaches us for food will be turned away. We'll always help them the first time. If they're from outside of our community or in some way we can't continue to serve them, perhaps because of income or something else, we'll let them know where else they can go to get help. And so that outreach is a very important component, because if somebody does approach us, we need to be present to see where else we might be able to direct or help them. And so that information and referral is critically important too. But anyone who approaches us will receive food the first time.
Now, on the other side, if there are residents in Fairfield want to contribute to the pantry, do they just bring it there in person and they can make donations?
Yes.
And I know I had worked with Joe of JoJo's News Stop. Remember that?
Yes.
Out in Stratfield, because one of the things that he noticed was that people may want to bring food to the pantry, but unfortunately, we get busy in our lives, especially moms, and we may not want to drive all the way down to the post road, or we might forget to drop off the food. So Joe has set up, and people should know this, you can go to Joe's News Stop in Stratfield, on Stratfield Road, and drop off food, and he, once a week or whenever he's got food, will bring it down.
Right.
But I guess I just wanted to make sure people knew, is it open all day? Can we just drop off extra groceries? And what do you need?
Right. Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because actually right now our shelves are kind of bare because the numbers are going up a little bit and who's using our pantry. But so the pantry's open for people to come and receive food Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 12, and Thursday nights from 4 to 6. The pantry is completely run by volunteers, staffed by volunteers, and all the food is donated, except for what we're able to purchase to sort of fill the gaps. So we really rely on those donations. And while there are some drop-off boxes, JoJo's Market is one, and the Stop and Shop, both in the Circle and on Villa Avenue, have a place where people can leave groceries. But we really rely on all of those Boy Scout or Girl Scout or basketball team kind of food drives. And we have a lot of people around town who will also do food drives in their neighborhood. And if anyone's interested in helping us with anything like that, we can let you know how to get that done.
That's great to know, and a great project for a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout troop.
It's a tricky thing for us because people tend to remember that people are hungry around the holidays, especially Thanksgiving, right? Because that's when we all remember how much we have and how lucky we really are. But people have to eat all day long, every year, every day. And the summertime is an especially difficult time, and we're right in the middle of that right now where our shelves are pretty empty. And if you think about the fact that for families that are struggling, their kids are eating lunch in school, so that's a meal the parent might not have to worry about. In the summertime, the need for food goes up a little bit, and so it's very tricky. But we are open 9 to 5 at that location. People can drop off food anytime. The pantry does not need to be open. And any kind of food,
like what about milk and eggs? Do you take that stuff?
So we're really lucky because people do like to give us their cast-off items, and so we have refrigerators and freezers. Okay. So if people have milk and eggs and butter, as long as they bring it inside and we know that they have that, we can make space for that. We, right now, are very desperate for tuna fish, macaroni and cheese, peanut butter, canned fruit, canned vegetables, and cereal.
Okay, but those are just the popular staples.
Those are things that people really need, and we're really light. But we also have an initiative called Grow a Row for Hope. We started it last year to sort of piggyback on our community garden that we have going. And what we said is, if you're planting, a container garden, a little bit of your yard, a couple of acres, could you set aside a little bit for people that are really in need?
Wow.
And we have a couple of big refrigerators that we can store produce in. And because we're open almost every day during the week, that produce can get out to people right away. And so that's something that we hope will grow and continue, but it's been really, really rewarding to give out some very healthy food and food that's sort of homegrown.
Yeah, and
so
that
we're
really
enjoying
links
that
into the sort of the movement in Connecticut to support farms and farming and gardening as sort of a grow your own food.
It's just a nice tie-in, all together. It's local, current, fresh, and it's taking care of somebody in need at the same time.
So basically, if you've got a garden and you have too much produce, you can think of the food pantry, which I personally wouldn't have thought of.
Right, and a lot of pantries aren't as lucky as us to have a refrigerator, but if you have extra zucchini, we're your people.
You're in. You're the zucchini people. And now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the units of supportive housing, because that's been an issue in town. It seems like we just always could look for more, but we had some big successes a few years back and opened some down by the former Navy housing, Army housing, which
Navy was, before our time.
So 46 units seems like a lot. Where are they, and how do people apply to get in there?
Well, so our model is scattered site. So we're not interested in creating any large building or a large neighborhood that's all one type of affordable supportive housing. So over the years, we've just quietly purchased and renovated housing and have moved our clients in. So they're scattered throughout the community. You wouldn't know our housing from anyone else's. In fact, we do our best to make sure that they look good and that they fit in with the neighborhood. I won't say that there's never any issue, but for the most part, it's important for us to be good neighbors and for our clients to feel like they're part of the neighborhood. And so we've got them in all different parts of town. You wouldn't really know where they are. And we do have a few in Bridgeport also. In the beginning, our model was to purchase and renovate, but as the economy's changed a little bit, we've been doing a lot more to educate landlords about the value of renting to people that we're working with, and that they come with this extra service that is actually positive. Because if there's any kind of issue going on in the household, we can be there to help the family through that. And we love and respect our clients, and so it's tricky for us in a community like this because we can't do a photo op or advertise where the properties are. But we feel so lucky to be able to provide the housing that we do, but we could really have 3 times as much because the need is so great.
And so how long do people stay in the housing that's owned by Operation Hope, and are you able to sort of move people, transition people out so you can help someone else down the road?
So that's an issue because the model that we embraced was a permanent supportive housing model, which meant that as long as it was working for the family and it was the right makeup for the family as far as bedroom size and all that, and the family was thriving, and we were getting what we needed in terms of good care and rent and all of that, the It was permanent. So what was happening is we're housing people, but because the units don't open up that quickly,
you weren't able.
We're never really able to get on top of how many units we really need. So we don't really subscribe to a transitional model.
I see.
Although there's always some turnover, just naturally people move on and do different things,
right.
or it wasn't the right time for them and it wasn't appropriate at the moment. But the model's permanent because we believe that people have a right to feel safe and sort of stable in their housing environment.
And that allows, if they have children, it allows the children to get sort of connected to their community and their school, which is so critical to their success.
It's so important. And we're so lucky, really, that a lot of our housing is family housing. And for kids to just know that this is their home now, that they're going to get up every morning and things are going to be very stable after what may have been an unstable situation for a while is really, really important. And that they enjoy the schools and all the benefits of the town and really, feel like they belong here. And they do.
So talk to me about the services that come with those families. So you've got families in 46 units,
right? And
then also residents right down here,
right?
And what are the extra services that you found critical to supporting those families?
Well, one of the things we were concerned about, especially when our tenants were people who had experienced homelessness or may have been struggling with some other issues like addiction or mental illness or other stressors, is that it's important to have a professional friend, somebody who cares about you and is really watching out for you and your family. So we provide case management services in terms of helping people negotiate their day-to-day living skills and things that they encounter on a daily basis. But we also have a team of clinical social workers, master's degree level social workers, who are available for anything more complex that comes up. Including setting up treatment plans or whatever people need to work on. And we found that what works well is that the services are elective, but they're useful. So they're available to anyone who lives in our housing. And, there may be long periods of time where people don't need that. But just like you and I might need to check in with an advisor or somebody that we care about that can help us through, I think it's important for us to be present.
And so the services, the clinical social workers, are they also, they're obviously working with the people that you've got placed in your supportive housing, but are they also sort of accessible to the Fairfield community at large? And do people approach you just because
I'm so glad you asked
families
that,
are in crisis
because
sometimes in other ways?
It's so true, and we're actually seeing an increase in people that are approaching us just in general looking for help. I think after 25 years, the name Operation Hope means that there must be something going on there. There must be some help that I can get. And we're seeing a large increase in people calling and dropping by and just looking for help with all kinds of issues. And so what we do now is we rotate our staff. So each day, one of our social workers takes a turn being sort of our outreach person. And they handle all the phone calls, walk-ins, people in the pantry that are, may need more from us. And we realize that as we go forward, that's probably a place where we need to grow.
Reaching out to the Fairfield community.
Of course, for us, we'd have to maybe raise the money to figure out how to do that right, but we already instinctively know that that's necessary, and we're proud to be able to be here for people. So.
And it's so interesting because I did a show with the Fairfield police officers and the crisis intervention team, and you and I, before we started filming this, were talking about what a perfect natural link it is that you're there and your social workers with their fingertips on the services that are available, and now the Fairfield police officers are trained to sort of connect people with those services.
Exactly. I look forward to actually exploring that in more detail with them, and I think what they're doing is remarkable. I mean, they're one of our most critical and important partners anyway in the work that we do, so we love them.
I'm so proud of you all because it's their work and your work that's sort of right there at the roots and the true safety net, that's capturing people when they're in crisis or finding themselves in need.
And again, it goes back to sort of what your show is about, that this is a remarkable town because of things like this. Not every town has an organization like ours. And in fact, up until last year, so I don't know if this is still true.
Yes, I remember
but
this.
Up until last year, there were only 4 communities in America that were suburban affluent, comfortable communities that have an organization like Operation Hope.
And I just have to stop for a second and just emphasize that, because I do remember them talking about that at one of the fundraisers that I was at.
Right.
But 4 communities in the entire country that are like ours, suburban communities of pretty, established probably wealth.
Right.
And only 4 in the whole country that run a shelter like this.
Right.
It's just amazing.
And one of them is Westport.
Westport, I know.
So, to give my friends at Homes with Hope a little
plug.
I
was the state rep for Westport, too, so I used to hear it in Westport. And I was like, wait, so 4 communities in the country, and one is in Fairfield and one is in Westport.
It's
but it is remarkable.
And I think it really shows that these are communities that are definitely have a very strong sense of pride, but that means that they also have a commitment to everyone in the community, and that's really a beautiful thing. I don't know, though, since the economy fell apart, if maybe this has spread, but for independent nonprofit organizations doing the kind of work we do with hunger and homelessness, only 4 in America.
So talk to me a little bit about how you're connected with services in the region.
Yes.
And how you work with other nonprofit providers, because that seems like a sort of an important piece.
So I may answer this backwards a little bit.
That's okay.
But we just finished last week doing something that's really unprecedented in this community. And we're all part of the Greater Bridgeport Continuum of Care, and then there's the Greater Norwalk Continuum of Care.
Okay.
So all the service providers that work with people who are mentally ill, addicted, need housing, or hunger issues all work together around those 2 those are like almost like guilds for the kind of work that we do. So our Continuum of Care decided that we were going to replicate something that was done by an organization called 100,000 Homes, which is a national initiative to go out and register the outdoor homeless and create a list of who's the most vulnerable so that we can start to target our services on a regional level to people who need the help the most. So we actually went out. There were about 30 people from different organizations. A couple of my staff and myself went out over 3 mornings and evenings in Fairfield and Bridgeport and went looking for people who actually live outside. And we had a medical survey. The idea was to find out who is the most at risk for morbidity, and how could we do something about preventing people from, dying outside. And so while it sounds negative, what we found is that people were actually very willing to talk to us. And we're creating a list based on the most vulnerable. So as shelter beds or housing becomes available, people who need it the most and who are most at risk of not making it, maybe through another winter, will actually get the help they need. It's a very difficult population because in the Northeast especially, we have lots of gap measures that will sort of hide our homeless population and mask the problem. But for those who are living outside, there's a lot to be done. And there's a relatively large number. We found over 200 people.
In the town of Fairfield or in our
mixed,
region?
In just Fairfield and Bridgeport. And a number of people were from Fairfield. And we went to, in our work, we know where people are. And we respect their right to not come inside and not to take services if they're not interested. But we're still concerned about their life and their health and how dangerous and vulnerable they are out there. So that was really an empowering and powerful initiative that we went through recently. But it talks a lot about how things have changed in the last 5 or 6 years, where instead of each of us thinking that we have our own little fiefdom and we serve this small clientele, we're willing to learn and share in a way that was probably uncommon before.
And it's just amazing to hear you say that there are people that are living outside
in this town,
and it makes me think about something that a pastor at my church once talked about when he visited India, and he was in a compound of a very wealthy Indian native, and it was gated, and when he walked up to the gate and he sort of stepped up and could look out over, and it was just a sea of incredible homelessness and people living in like a tent city. And the contrast that he was playing out was that he said, here in our community, we don't have a wall that separates us between those people that are homeless and people of wealth. We are integrated, and it's our responsibility, those of us that have found ourselves in positions of privilege, it's our responsibility to be the ones that reach out and offer the help, because often those who are in times of crisis, they don't even have the mindset to reach out and say, help me.
Exactly.
That it's our job in the suburbs to reach in and say, let me help you.
Right. It's so true, and we're so lucky to be able to do it, and I think that's really the empowering part, is that we can do something about it. And if we learn to work together, and we're trying to do this coordinated wait lists and really change the paradigm a little bit. I'm the board chair currently of an organization called Supportive Housing Works, and we are a membership agency of all the executive directors of nonprofits like ours from Stamford to New Haven, because we recognize that homelessness is kind of transient up and down the 95 corridor. So we're trying to work together so that we have more of a collective voice about advocacy issues and funding for projects, and really working together to target our services to people who really need it the most. And if we could make a dent in that chronic outdoor population, we could target our services to people who are maybe not as complex, but still in need in a different way. And it could really change the whole way that things are done. And we're happy to be part of it. So.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that the whole region is recognizing that working together you can
it's
actually
really
accomplish
important.
a bigger goal. And talk to me a little bit, this always comes up, like, the economy, and the past 3 years has really been, I mean, in my lifetime, just something that I have never seen. And just as a state representative, I engage families all the time who are facing unemployment and loss of their home, and also very confidentially and quietly help them get connected with services. But I have been amazed how many families in the suburban community of Fairfield have been thrown just into turmoil in the past 3 years. And I'm wondering how Operation Hope has been impacted by the economy. On the giving side, because I wonder if giving is down, or donations are down, but also on the need side.
Right. So you're hitting the nail on the head. I think that we've been seeing a decline in giving, both on the foundation and corporate level as well as individual giving. People just are more cautious. They don't have the funding the way they used to. Some of the donors that we used to rely on closed up their foundations or have changed their priorities. So that becomes really tricky. But at the same time, the need is going up. So we're seeing more people in all of our programs, both housing and hunger related, more people who are looking for help for the first time ever, people who were not part of the system or had not been previously in a situation where they were not able to figure their way out of it and have to ask for help. And what's so challenging for people who are newly in need is that they don't really know what's out there. It's difficult for them to ask for help. And so I think being a local presence, being somewhere that people may already know because they were donors of food or prepared a meal, or their class maybe did a collection for us, I think it helps people understand that it's okay for them to approach us. And we try to be very mindful of how difficult that first initial conversation might be, and to be present for them.
And do you ever get referrals from, or does it not work that way? Do people, like,
we do.
Someone like me, could I call and give you a name, and then do you anonymously, and can you do outreach, or is that not the right way?
Well, I think, we are happy to learn when somebody needs help, and it runs the gamut from maybe a teacher or a social worker at school recognizes that there might be an issue, a neighbor on behalf of their friend may ask if maybe they can get groceries, or how does this work.
Right.
I'm constantly telling people, always err on the side of giving out our number, telling people to go to our website. We're here for the community. And, sometimes it seems a little awkward at first, but our intention is to be present and to be helpful. So.
And so talk just quickly here for a minute or two about, where's Operation Hope going? Where's the future of Operation Hope in Fairfield?
Well, I think one of the things that I'm hopeful that we'll be able to add, to our sort of mix of services will be a work readiness component. There's so many things that we could do to help people feel more confident about maybe gaps in their resume, or building skills to make them more ready to work when the opportunity comes back. And I've got some great ideas about starting a social enterprise that would be like a small business that our clients could test their skills, learn new skills, and be useful and productive and provide a good or a service back to the community that's actually needed by the community. So I've got great plans. I try to not talk too much about it because I'm really, really excited about it. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
And you gotta focus on the day-to-day operations too.
We always say, our tagline is ending homelessness one person at a time, and we mean that, and we wish that were true, but that day's not here yet. So we still need to be running the programs and the assistance that we currently offer, but we need to keep thinking about ways to sort of, capture the needs that people really have and be progressive about it too.
Carla, I can't thank you enough for taking this time to talk with me about Operation Hope, and for those of you who took the time to watch our show today and learn a little bit about Operation Hope. As you can tell, the need never stops, and it's the summertime, and our food pantry is a little dry, or a lot dry, and could really use your donations. So you can make donations at the Stop and Shop when you are shopping. There's collection bins in the front by the cash registers. You can also go by JoJo's new stop in Stratfield. All of these locations collect the food and just bring it directly to the food pantry. And any neighbors or friends that you know who might be in need or at risk or facing a family in crisis, share Operation Hope with them and encourage them to call or go to the website, because there are tremendous services for the people in our town so that our families and our children are protected. So please, let's take advantage of them. And again, Carla, I can't thank you enough. And I hope you'll join me again next month on Our Town.